Link TV, connecting you to the world. Link TV is viewer supported. Watch more at linktv.org.
Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Mitchell meets Netanyahu in bid to save Middle East talks. Alawi asks Iran not to meddle in Iraqi affairs. And Jordan denies jamming Al Jazeera's signal during the World Cup coverage. Mosaic World News from Middle East begins now.
بين القدس ورام الله يتنقل المبعوث الأمريكي الخاص إلى الشرق الأوسط جورج ميتشل في محاولة.
In an attempt to keep the Palestinians and the Israelis on the direct negotiation table, U.S. Special Mideast Envoy George Mitchell visited Jerusalem and Ramallah. Mitchell met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah and discussed the recent peace process developments in light of the Israeli decision not to continue the settlement construction freeze in the West Bank. Mitchell started his mission in the region by meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to whom he presented a number of American incentives in exchange for extending the settlement freeze for 2 months.
Here, in Netanyahu's home in Jazeera, is where the first meeting between the Israeli Prime Minister and the American envoy took place since the partial settlement freeze expired. The meeting produced nothing new, not even American pressure on Israel to stop settlement construction. And as usual, Netanyahu focused on the importance of Israel's security and interests. He hinted at the resumption of settlement construction, but did so diplomatically.
President Obama and Secretary of State Clinton asked me to come here and deliver a message to you, the Palestinians, and the people of the region, that the President and Secretary Clinton are committed to accomplishing peace. We knew this would be a road with many bumps, but we are not deterred and are more determined than ever to realize peace.
There are many skeptics. Many doubts.
There are many skeptics and many doubts, but we are committed to reaching a peace that guarantees Israel's security and secures its vital interests.
The meeting focused on guarantees offered by the American president to Israel if the latter agrees to freeze settlement construction for 60 days. One of the first components is the allocation of advanced warfare weapons to Israel as soon as an agreement with the Palestinians is signed. In addition, the US will pledge to defeat any Arab or Palestinian initiative at the UN Security Council that proposes the establishment of a Palestinian state and pressures the Palestinians not to impose the settlement freeze as a precondition to the negotiations.
In turn, they went from pressuring Israel to tempting Israel at our expense. We are the ones who need guarantees. Mr. Mitchell has an opportunity, lasting until the 4th of October, to convince Israel that it is in its interest and the interest of peace to completely stop settlement activities so we can continue the negotiations.
The Palestinian president has announced that he will make an historic decision on October 4th. He will either end the negotiations or address the General Assembly, but it is unlikely that he will present his resignation. As usual, the American administration plans on pressuring the Palestinian side. The Palestinian president will preside over internal and Arab consultations in the shadow of many disappointments and little optimism.
Response here at home and abroad today to Foreign Minister Avigdor Liebermans' controversial speech at the UN General Assembly last night. Lieberman presented the UN with his draft for a population and territory swap as part of an eventual peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians. All this as Prime Minister Netanyahu is struggling to press ahead with direct peace talks. More in this report from IBA's Jordana Miller.
Many are saying, once again, he's crossed a red line.
Thus, the guiding principle for final status agreement must not be land for peace, but rather exchange of populated territory. Let me be very clear. I'm not speaking about moving populations, but rather about moving borders to better reflect demographic realities.
This isn't the first time Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman has expressed political views that contradict the official position of the Israeli government, but this time he did it as a representative of Israel at the United Nations in front of the world at the General Assembly. During his controversial speech, he submitted a draft of his populated territory exchange program. It calls for moving parts of the Israeli Arab community to a newly formed Palestinian state, what critics call an illegal eviction. Lieberman also rejected the idea of signing a final peace deal soon, saying interim agreements would be better. Comprehensive peace, he added, could take, quote, decades. All of this flies in the face of what Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said, and he immediately distanced himself from the remarks. His office released a statement that Lieberman's address at the UN was not coordinated with Netanyahu, and that the Prime Minister is the one handling the peace negotiations. Defense Minister Ehud Barak was a bit more direct, saying Lieberman's remarks do not represent the government's stand. He accused him of playing into the enemy's hands. Yisrael Beitenu officials shot back that Barak was dragging the government to the left, into what they called a peace now government. Some ministers were much less diplomatic, blaming Lieberman for causing irreparable harm to Israel's image. Avishai Braverman called Lieberman subversive and demanded that he be fired. The controversy sparked outrage among prominent American Jews as well. Many expressed fears that Lieberman was undermining Netanyahu's credibility in Washington. Lieberman, for his part, has been unrepentant. He believes he acted in line with his duties as foreign minister. Jordana Miller, IBA News.
Joining us now in the studio to discuss recent diplomatic developments is Dr. Gershom Baskin, the CEO and co-founder of the Israel-Palestine Center for Research. Dr. Baskin, good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, let's talk about the Lieberman speech. People expressed some sort of shock here at home. Given how widely known his views are, was anyone shocked at the UN?
I think everyone was shocked in the entire world. I spoke with diplomats today from various Western countries who were amazed that Mr. Lieberman gave up and stood up in the United Nations and gave a platform speech of his own political party.
They were shocked, or they just didn't like what he had to say?
No, it had nothing to do with liking or disliking what he had to do. The government of Israel has one position. The government of Israel is made up of different political parties, but it's unprecedented for a foreign minister from a different political party than the prime minister to get up in the United Nations, in the international arena, and present the position of the government of Israel as his own party platform.
Well, now that is in fact Lieberman's argument, or one of them, that because it is a coalition government here, that he has the right to express his
No, he doesn't.
party.
He has a right to express his opinion in the Knesset, not in front of the United Nations, where he's representing the government of Israel. And I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu has no choice but to fire him. If he does not fire him, then it's simply telling the people of Israel and the entire world that there is no government of Israel. There's a collection of political parties making up the government of Israel, and if Prime Minister Netanyahu is the Prime Minister of the government, he must be obligated to fire Lieberman.
Now, in fact, there is a theory today that's abounding that Netanyahu wasn't altogether displeased with the Lieberman speech because it gave the world, particularly the United States, a very good indication of the political restrictions that he faces here at home.
I don't think he needed the United Nations as the arena to explain to the Americans or the Europeans the difficult political situation that he's in domestic politics. But let's face reality, his difficulty is not that sharp. If Netanyahu decides to move forward on the peace process, he has Kadima in his pocket, and he can tell Mr. Lieberman to go home and take his political campaign to the streets and leave us alone from his politics in the government and bring in Kadima and move forward with peace.
As far as the peace talks go themselves, so far as Abbas has not bolted the table.
Not yet.
Is there a chance that Netanyahu really can have it both ways, the resumption of settlement building and yet at the same time a continuation of the talks?
Possibly. If the settlement building is really restricted to those areas that everyone knows more or less will be the annexed areas to Israel within the framework of a territorial swap with the Palestinians, in order for that to happen, I think the United States is going to have to offer Abbas some guarantees in terms of the outcome of the negotiations, general guarantees that the negotiations will begin with the June 4th, 67 borders, that the Palestinian state will encompass 22% of the territory between the river and the sea, with the West Bank part of the state being contiguous territory, and that the land swaps will be 1-to-1 in their ratio. I think these kind of guarantees can enable the talks to go forward. Let's face it, building another 1,000 units of houses in Gilo is not going to change the situation. Gilo will never be Palestinian, just as other parts of the settlement blocks that will be eventually annexed to Israel.
The chief of the Dubai police has reportedly said he has received death threats from Israel's spy agency, the Mossad. Dali Khalfan told the Dubai Daily the threats came after he uncovered the details of the assassination of a senior Hamas leader in the emirate in January. He accused Mossad of being behind both threats. In mid-February, Khalfan released the names and photographs of 11 murder suspects who had entered Dubai with European passports. The man they murdered was Mahmoud al-Mabhou, a Hamas official. He was found dead in his room in a hotel near Dubai International Airport. The city police say 26 people were involved in the murder. They also say the suspects used fake European and Australian passports to enter the emirate.
Yemen has confirmed that the US has launched attacks on alleged militants in the south of the country. Foreign Minister Abu Bakr al-Korbi says the US strikes were suspended in December because the Yemeni government viewed them as counterproductive. Despite this, the US military carried out secret airstrikes in May, and a deputy provincial governor was killed in the process. The strike was reportedly the fourth of its kind as part of a secret mission by the US military. In a recent report, Amnesty International accused the Yemeni government of abusing the threat from militants as an excuse to clamp down on internal dissent. It also blamed Sana'a for causing the displacement of thousands of civilians in southern Yemen. The government's catalogue of human rights abuses over the past 2 years include unlawful killings, torture and unfair trials.
Hi, I'm Jamal Dajani, producer of Mosaic, here with an exciting new way to keep Mosaic going strong. Just text Link TV to the phone number 85944 and you'll instantly make a $10 donation to Mosaic and Link TV. It doesn't get easier than this. It will simply be added to your mobile phone bill. No phone operators, no web forms, just a quick and easy text message. So what are you waiting for? Make a real difference to Mosaic today.
Britain's Guardian Daily said that it has obtained secret documents revealing that Jordan was behind the jamming of Al Jazeera satellite television's broadcast of the World Cup tournament in South Africa.
The Guardian's Middle East editor, Ian Black, said that his newspaper wouldn't have published the report if it wasn't absolutely sure of its accuracy.
On the other side, Jordanian official sources told an Al Jazeera correspondent that the Guardian's report is not correct. The sources confirm that the Jordanian government is willing to cooperate with any investigation into the case.
مباراة كأس العالم الافتتاحية بين المكسيك وجنوب أفريقيا في 12 من يونيو حزيران.
The World Cup opening game between Mexico and South Africa on June 12 was not only a sporting event in the Arab world, but also a political one. To their surprise, millions of Arab fans who followed the game on Al Jazeera's sport channel experienced episodes of jamming, taking away the joy of watching the game for them. The jamming occurred 7 more times over the next month, the length of the World Cup. At the time, Al Jazeera described the jamming incident as an act of terrorism, stopping short of accusing any group.
تتهم جهة بعينها أو تكشف نتائج تحقيقاتها عن مصدر التشويش.
The network also didn't disclose the results of its investigation into the source of the jamming. However, secret documents seen exclusively by The Guardian trace 5 episodes of jamming to a location near Salt, northeast of the Jordanian capital Amman, as confirmed by counter-jamming frequency experts.
شمال شرق العاصمة الأردنية عمان ويستبعد الخبراء أن يكون الأمر قد تم دون.
The experts doubt that the jamming took place without the knowledge of the Jordanian authorities. They also said that jamming requires the use of advanced equipment capable of transmitting radio or television frequencies to intercept the original targeted signal and prevent it from reaching the ground, an action banned by international treaties.
إجراء تحرمه المعاهدات الدولية.
The document that I have seen
shows beyond a reasonable doubt that the jamming of Al Jazeera broadcast of the World Cup tournaments was launched from Jordan. I believe the documents are available to the administration of Al Jazeera network.
However, some have technically refuted the Guardian story.
The specified site doesn't have any broadcast stations whatsoever. The stations in Jordan are not portable. As far as the stations that operate by frequencies similar to the one that was targeted by alAsad, this frequency was only known to alAsad and Al Jazeera network.
The Guardian said that Jordan appears to have retaliated after the collapse of a deal that would have allowed soccer fans free access to the matches. The Guardian report was dismissed by Jordan.
Unfortunately, this is an attempt to politicize sports. Why now? These forces which accuse Jordan of jamming should have revealed this issue earlier.
فجر تقرير الجارديان ضجة سياسية وإعلامية تستبطن تاريخا طالما غلفت فيه
The Guardian report has sparked a political and media uproar, revealing a hidden history of political animosity that seems to shape Arab-Arab relations. However, it remains to be seen how this issue will play out, pending the outcome of Al Jazeera's investigation into the source of the jamming of its regional World Cup coverage.
During his visit to Damascus, head of al-Iraqiyya bloc Iyad Allawi asked Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to urge Iran not to meddle in Iraqi affairs. Al-Assad is about to embark on a state visit to Iran.
The top official of an Iraqiyya delegation, Iyad Allawi, has arrived in the Syrian capital, Damascus, on his second visit in 2 months. Allawi's visit aims to help remove the obstacles impeding the formation of the new Iraqi government. The Syrian president said that his country supports any agreement that may help Iraq overcome its current crisis and form a national unity government that includes all political blocs.
Syria thinks of Iraq as a brotherly and neighbouring Arab state. In other ways, the Syrian-Iraqi relations are bound by fundamental and joint interests. Syria wants to see an Iraqi government that is able to restore security, stability and unity in the country. Syria doesn't support anyone who tries to divide Iraq or breach its security. It also wants to see an Iraqi Arab state that is capable of reclaiming its Arab role in the region.
This Syrian position was reiterated by President Bashar al-Assad, who is due to visit Iran soon. Al-Assad's remarks came during a meeting with the delegation from the State of Law Coalition nearly 2 weeks ago. Allawi asked al-Assad to tell Iran that his Iraqiyya bloc has nothing but good intentions towards the Islamic Republic.
One of the reasons we asked to meet with His Excellency, the Syrian President, was to exchange viewpoints as well as to clarify our position ahead of his visit to Iran. Of course, we are holding talks with other countries' leaders who have good relations with Iran. It's very important for our neighbor Iran to understand that Iraqiyya is not hostile to Iranian policy.
The head of the Iraqiyya list reiterated his opposition to any government led by outgoing Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki.
We are excused from joining any government led by an authority that helped break the willpower of the Iraqi people. We can't be a part of such an authority.
The Iraqiyya delegation said that they are slowly but surely moving closer to forming the new government. The delegation said they don't believe in power sharing or the allocation of ministerial positions. Once again, Syria is on the political front lines in a bid to broker some of the troubling issues in the region. Perhaps the upcoming visit by the Syrian president to Iran will help break the deadlock impeding the formation of the next Iraqi government. Hanushan al-Arabiya, Damascus.
اتخذت الحكومة العراقية قراراً بدفع تعويضات بقيمة 400 مليون دولار.
The Iraqi government has agreed to pay $400 million in compensation to U.S. citizens who say they suffered psychological losses after being held as human shields by the former Iraqi regime during its 1990 invasion of Kuwait. The decision came as a shock to many Iraqis who demanded compensation for the crimes committed by the U.S. forces in Iraq. Ashraf Azawi has the details from Baghdad.
The Iraqi government agreed to pay $400 million in compensation to US citizens who say they suffered psychological losses after being detained as human shields by the former regime during its invasion of Kuwait in 1990. The decision has stirred a wave of indignation across Iraq, with many expressing resentment and condemnation, causing an embarrassment to the Iraqi government. In return, some Iraqis demanded the US pay compensation for the killing, displacement and forced migration of Iraqis during its invasion of Iraq.
We oppose this decision. Our country and people need this money more than the U.S. Our people are the real victims of these incidents. Why do we have to compensate the Americans? The Americans are an occupying power. We are living under occupation. Many of the people are homeless and hungry. They have nothing.
We oppose paying compensation to any American. The Iraqi people need this money. They need to compensate the displaced, the widows, and the martyrs. Why do we have to compensate the Americans who invaded and occupied our country? This is not acceptable. Is American blood more worthy than Iraqis? The money is better spent on Iraqis, who are entitled to each penny or dinar that enters Iraq.
The issue of US compensation claims is absurd and ironic, as it brings back to memory the countless violations and mistakes committed by the US forces against the Iraqi people, most notably the Abu Ghraib scandal and the crimes of Blackwater in the Nisour Square incident. This prompted some Iraqis to file a lawsuit against the US government, demanding it pay compensation for waging a war in Iraq, where many were killed, wounded, displaced and violated by the US Army.
Those so-called human shields had voluntarily come to the country in order to help protect Iraqi institutions and prevent the launch of a war at that time. Having said that, the decision to pay compensation is wrong. This is my personal opinion. Also, as an attorney, I say the decision is wrong. The decision must be challenged and repealed by the International Court of Justice. The Iraqi government must demand the US government and its military pay compensation to the Iraqi people for the pain and suffering they endured, including the killing, displacement and forced migration.
Strangely, the Iraqi government made no efforts to ease the level of anger and criticism voiced by the Iraqi public and some politicians. By the same token, the government confirmed the reason behind its decision to settle the dispute between Baghdad and Washington is to protect Iraq's assets and resources, as well as to help Iraq exit out of Chapter 7 of the UN mandate. Iraq remains unchanged. It continues to pay for the mistakes of the past. Meanwhile, the Iraqis are asking, does the psychological trauma endured by several US citizens at the hands of the former Iraqi regime measure up to the countless crimes and violations committed by the US Army in Iraq from 2003 to now? Ashraf Mohammed Azawi, Russia Today, Baghdad.
A high court in India issued a ruling on the disputed land of Babri Mosque, dividing it between Muslims and Hindus. Joining us from Delhi is our BBC correspondent, Rahul Tandon. Welcome, Rahul. So far, have the different political sides expressed any reaction to the decision issued by the High Court in India?
Lots of reaction is coming in following this verdict.
Lots of reaction is coming in following the announcement of the verdict. The Prime Minister issued a statement asking for calm and to peacefully solve the problem. He also said that the court's decision must be respected and asked all those involved, Muslims, Hindus and others, to abide by the court's ruling.
It took them 60 years to reach this decision. How long will it take to implement it?
It's still a very long way to go here.
It's still a very long way to go here because both the Muslim groups and the Hindu groups have said that they will appeal to the Supreme Court for a review of this verdict. They have also said that they will try to redivide the site in a different way. I think that the Supreme Court will need a significant amount of time before looking into this issue and issuing a definitive verdict.
So the court's ruling can be appealed, or is it final?
No, it can definitely be appealed.
يمكن النظر فيه، يمكن استئنافه مرة أخرى. وكما قلت إنه في مثل هذه المواقف.
No, it can definitely be appealed. The court decided today to divide the land between Hindu groups and Muslim groups, but in such cases, as I've said, the essence or heart of the problem is that the Hindus still have a long way to go.
لب المشكلة هو أن الهندوس لا يزال لهم طريق طويل في ذلك الشأن.
كيف يبدو الوضع الأمني الآن على الأرض؟ قلت بأنهم
How does the security situation seem on the ground? You had said that there have been some calls for self-control and calm. Are security forces still spread? And are there indications of a possible reaction by any of the sides affected by the verdict?
There is heavy security across India.
There is heavy security across India. Some cities have been completely shut down. There are nearly 180,000 security officers spread across different parts of the country, and the situation is calm here. As I said earlier, the Prime Minister sent a call to all sides asking for calm and harmony.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible from support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news. Read our blog. Get transcripts of past shows and more at linktv.org/mosaic.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs, programs which connect you to the world.